There's a grain of truth in this myth, since Plato and Aristotle are not entirely the same, and you might make a pretty good case that some of their differences are foundational to other differences, even foundational to differing traditions in philosophy. Nevertheless, it is at best an overstatement that they are philosophical opposites. Let's look at ethics first. They are both virtue theorists. They are both natural law ethicists. The Republic of Plato and the Nicomachean Ethics of Aristotle are both foundational texts to the Western natural law tradition. There is, in metaphysics, some significant similarity. They both reject materialism. They both believe in the existence of universals. If you don't know what that means, go to the topics playlist and find a video on that topic. Or, if you can't find it, subscribe and wait, it will show up eventually. And what else? In metaphysics, they're both hylomorphists. Aristotle is sort of known as the paradigmatic hylomorphist philosopher. But Plato seems to be a hylomorphist. The description of the physical world, or what we think of as a physical world, or the everyday world, as something pitched in the middle between being and non-being, where non-being is pure immaterial, being is pure immaterial reality, and non-being is pure nothingness, or in Plotinus' version of Platonism, later, pure matter, or prime matter. This whole thing seems to be a hylomorphism, where that which is in the middle, the world of becoming, is a mixture of matter and non-physical reality. Plato seems to be a hylomorphist, like Aristotle. That's a big metaphysical agreement. Now, in metaphysics, there is a significant disagreement. They both believe universals exist. But Aristotle thinks, that's it, universals exist, and they're in this world. And Plato thinks universals exist, and they're in the higher reality, universals exist, and they are forms. Forms are universals, and they exist by themselves. That's Plato's view. So that is a significant difference. Now, if you look at the classic picture of these guys disagreeing, Plato, in Raphael's The School of Athens, Plato is pointing up. He's pointing at higher reality, and Aristotle is pointing out at this world where he thinks reality is. Now, this is something of a caricature, because Plato takes this world seriously. And in Aristotle, there is a Platonic aspect of contemplation of non-physical reality. But it is certainly correct, at least to the extent that they are both pointing to where they think universals are, and that is a noteworthy difference. Finally, let's say something about epistemology. Now, you can find aspects of empiricism in Plato. Let's talk about empiricism. It's the theory that knowledge comes from experience. And it's also the theory that we get our ideas from sensory experience. Or more precisely, these are two different theories, or two closely related theories, or two aspects of one theory. Now, the idea that we get knowledge from experience does show up in Plato. In Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, you have both of these ideas. The account of all our ideas as coming from sensory experience. Also, you have the getting of knowledge from experience. And with Hobbes, there's this charming emphasis on getting knowledge from our experience in history of how governments work best, how societies work best, and how governments and societies fall apart. Now, try to read Plato's Republic and not think that he believes in the possibility of at least some knowledge from experience of exactly that sort, even if he doesn't agree with the other bit of empiricism that you find in Hobbes' Leviathan. So there's some of this, and in Aristotle there is an aspect of Platonic contemplation, but I think it probably is safe to say that there are roots of rationalist epistemology in Plato and roots of empiricist epistemology in Aristotle, and you might not be able to fully reconcile them. Now, finally, I should mention something, since I like Augustine. In Augustine's Contra Academicos, he says that there is one system of really true philosophy, and it's non-physical philosophy. Philosophy that rejects materialism. Boethius seems to be following Augustine in this regard in The Consolation of Philosophy, Book 1. And in this theory, Aristotle and Plato are pretty much the same thing. They're on the same side. They're not opposites. If they're opposite of anyone, it's not Plato opposite of Aristotle, Aristotle opposite of Plato. It's both of them opposite of Stoic and Epicurean materialism. Those are the real opposites. They're the opposites of Plato and Aristotle, who reject materialism, at least on that one account. Augustine also mentions that there's no shortage of people who say that Aristotle and Plato don't really differ. Now, I don't want to overstate this and say that there are no essential differences, even though Augustine may have said there are no essential differences, but I will say it is a myth that they are simply philosophical opposites. There are differences, but they are not philosophical opposites, these guys.